Welcome to XYPN Radio, where your host Alan Moore brings you into a community of fee-only financial planners who want to profitably and successfully serve Gen X and Gen Y clients. If you're ready to get the knowledge you need from leaders in your field, learn from forward-thinking advisors, and take action on your own goals, XYPN Radio is the show for you. Here's your host.
Hello and welcome to this episode of XYPN Radio. I am your host, Alan Moore, and I'm excited to have XYPN members and husband-wife dynamic duo of Philip Olsen and Julia Lorenz-Olsen on the show today. After graduating with degrees in theater, they decided that they preferred the Austin, Texas lifestyle over New York, which effectively meant they weren't going to be working in their field of training. They each bounced around a few different jobs before Philip ultimately decided he wanted to work in his own financial planning firm, and Julia saw the opportunity to handle sales and financial coaching for the firm. Their success has been insane, and they have quickly ramped up to serving several hundred clients. They specialize in working with creatives, meaning a lot of budgeting work and variable cash flow management. We talked in detail as well about their PBS Digital Studios show called 2 Cents, and how that has also exploded, with several episodes hitting the 1 million view mark. They're also expecting, so we talked about their plan for being parents while also being colleagues, and how they plan to manage their new schedule. We ended with a discussion about couples therapy and business coaching and how critical those have been to their success. This entire interview was truly dynamic as these two are just amazing together. You are not going to want to miss a minute of it. What highly repetitive tasks are you doing that take up your time and keep you from seeing more clients? Tasks like data input, building financial plans, document organization, and more? What if all of these tasks were done by a trained professional who could complete them with quality, accuracy, and efficiency? Valenta BPO provides virtual assistant and paraplanner outsourcing solutions specifically for financial advisors and the financial planning industry. Check them out at valentabpo.com to see how they can help you do more of what only you can do. You can find any of the additional resources that we mentioned during the episode at xyplanningnetwork.com/148. Also, be sure to go to xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP to join our private group just for XYPN Radio listeners. It's the community of advisors we've all been looking for that's there to provide support when we need it the most. Best of all, it's free. I encourage you to check it out. Again, that's xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP. Without further ado, here's my interview with Philip and Julia. Hey, Philip and Julia, welcome to the show. Thank you both so much for being on.
Hey, we're happy to be here.
Yeah.
So it's always fun, and I've been doing this more lately, but it's always fun to be able to talk to both parties, whether it be business partners or siblings, or in your case, spouses, about, life, running a business, being entrepreneurs together, and just sort of the journey that is entrepreneurship, which is so much fun and yet so terrifying.
Yes.
At the same time. So you both have just such an epic story. So I'm really excited to dig into the different components and sort of what has led you to the successes that you're seeing. So for listeners' benefit, can you just give me an overview of the firm, sort of where you're located, the type of firm that you have, number of clients, and then we'll dig into the details as we go.
Sure.
Yeah. So we're about a 2 and change-year-old RIA. It's Julie and I as full-time employees, and we have 2 part-time employees as well. We're in Austin, Texas. We work with the specific niche of artists and creatives. Austin's a pretty artsy town, and we also have creative and artistic backgrounds ourselves. You know the numbers on clients and stuff.
Yeah. So since we're in our second year, so just to kind of set this stage for what it looked like when we opened our firm, I had been in the mortgage industry for about 4 years prior to our opening, and I still remained there part-time and then worked part-time for our business. But Philip had been a broker and had some clients, under AUM, and then he was just starting to move towards fee for planning, that sort of thing. So in our first year, he had about 60 investment clients move over. And do you know how much money that was representative of?
Maybe 2 million.
Yeah. So about, representing about 2 million under management. Okay. And then in our first year, we took on 80 new clients within our first year of business.
I'm sorry. There's just nothing to do but laugh at that. So were these primarily your broker type small investment clients, or were you doing financial planning?
This was planning clients. Yeah. Planning and then / kind of coaching. So we kind of have these 2 aspects of our business apart from the investment piece. And both of these pieces have kind of gone through a couple of different iterations. But essentially, there are some clients who we primarily do coaching with, and then some that we do really more kind of in-depth planning work. So those 80 clients are a combination of those two tracks.
So where does it stand today in terms of number of coaching clients, number of more consulting business, and then investment clients?
So the investment clients has basically stayed static. We haven't marketed for that at all. We pretty much strongly encourage people to go in we call it the comprehensive planning or the foundations track. So it's kind of like traditional CFP stuff versus probably more like accredited financial counselor stuff. And people who are only investment AUM clients, we still have about kind of 65. Julia, what are the other numbers?
And then right now we're hovering around, I think, 75 current planning clients. And it's good to note. So in our full second year in 2017, we had about 90 new clients. And the way we approach planning isn't that it's just necessarily an ongoing forever, especially for our coaching clients. Our hope is that they are self-sufficient after kind of working with us at about the 6-month mark. So a lot of those clients have kind of been flushed through, if that makes sense. They're not the exact same clients. They're usually new clients.
So last year we had about 150 families or 160 we worked with over the course of the year.
Yes.
Some of those are just, ongoing, and some of them come in, finish, and move on.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I'm pretty stunned at the growth rate. Like, based on the number of advisors that you have, how in the world are you managing that many plans? I mean, because like you're not, I have your website up, like your comprehensive planning is not like just like a $500 one and done. I mean, you're charging $3,600 a year minimum. So you're doing real planning. So like, how in the world do you manage that many plans?
Well, we don't, the majority of the clients who come through are not planning clients. It's obviously, as you see, a lot more expensive, a lot more in depth, more involved. Mm-hmm. So Julia is on our front lines of sales, and she kind of guides people into which of the two solutions is probably the better fit for them. Our foundation's significantly less expensive, broken up into monthly payments. And it's where most people are, honestly. Mm-hmm. And so most people coming to us end up going down the foundations path. I would say 60 to 75% of people that start on with us.
About 60, somewhere in between there.
Go down that path. And so they're roughly a 9-hour commitment to us over the course of 6 months, excuse me. And then they're on their merry way. Now, even with that, we have kind of been crushed under the weight of workload. So I'm the only planner on staff, but I have a virtual paraplanner who does all my back end stuff with plan construction and data input. So that saves me a ton of time. And then Julia is doing most of the coaching for the foundations folks, as well as we have a half timer who helps her as well do that.
Yeah, we've been focusing on training her in preparation I'm 8 months pregnant. So
Congratulations. I saw that you're not taking new clients right now, which makes sense.
It's true. Yeah. We just put the pause on that. So we've basically been training her for the last 6 months to start help coaching clients. I've been training her in kind of my way that I approach things, and she's been doing really awesome. And a huge leap forward in our ability to manage all this has been, we call her our stage manager. Her name is Helen. She started, I guess, almost at 6 months ago, and she took all of the invoicing and the scheduling and all of that completely off our plate. She's an absolute dream. So to answer your question, we were just working our butts off for a long time, And now we've got some really great help. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. And I say it over and over because I want advisors to take this to heart. And you've experienced this. Ops is the unsung hero of the financial planning firm. But truly, like, I always live in fear of when my ops people go on vacation.
Oh, I know.
Because like everything, and maybe it's just because I could step in and do a lot of the other stuff like sales or marketing's not really my strong suit, but like ops is just its own world, and it's so crucial. And like I said, like that, it leverages you up doing sales, and Philip, you doing some of the planning. That she's making it, as stage manager, she's making it so that you can really thrive in doing what you do best.
Yes. Yeah,
And we had a couple of different kind of false starts on that.
Yeah, I had a full-time IAR registered with us for about a year. That was our biggest expense the first year.
Yeah.
And ended up letting him go largely because our firm just wasn't really mature enough to have a second rep. And so in hindsight, if we, had known that such an amazing ops person was out there for the finding, that definitely would have been an earlier hire, because it's just so essential to free up your time.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if your superpower is something other than ops, which based on what...
Yes, neither
That's
of
not us. We're not strong admin at all. And stuff was falling through the cracks constantly. We were forgetting things and missing things. So she's just like a steel case, like just nothing falls through. She's really awesome.
That's so awesome to hear. Yeah, it's okay to say what you're good at and what you're bad at, and then hire people that are really good at what you're bad at. There is nothing wrong with that. So... All right, so I do want to take a step back, and I'll let you sort of each tell the respective stories of sort of your career path and how you wound into launching this business. So Julia, let's start with you. Sort of what was your career path, up to the mortgage broker work and then into financial planning?
Well, I had a very auspicious start in the theater world. That was my background from the time I was very small. I was a very one-track mind. I was a performer. That's who I was and still who I am, very much. And so that's what I went to school for. That's also where I met Philip. And I kind of just after getting out of college we both decided, because we were married at the time, that we didn't want to move to either New York or LA, even though that's what our professors were telling us to do. It just didn't feel right. We knew enough to know that we were probably setting ourselves up for failure to make such a huge leap like that in such a hard industry. So we decided to stick around Austin and try and, have an artistic career here. And so I kind of became an accidental entrepreneur. I decided, because I had worked for like a couple of years at the Container Store, I was like, I could be a personal organizer, sure. And I literally advertised myself on Craigslist, had like a super dinky basic website, and it kind of took off. So it sustained us, it sustained me for a little bit. And then that morphed into kind of a more permanent position with a specific family who kind of utilized me for some other things. And then it's actually through that family that I ended up in the mortgage industry through a very, very strange set of circumstances. The person who I was working for at the time was heavily invested in tax liens, of all things.
Oh, and Lord.
So
that always turns out well.
I know. Oh, bless. So that was like my little, and then he thought like maybe he could be an originator. And so that's kind of what got me started on the path. And then I ended up being scooped up and offered my first kind of big girl job with a salary and benefits and all that in the mortgage world. And I took it. I thought, well, sure, why not? How hard could it be? Not knowing how insanely hard it could be, but it was really transformative. I decided I was either going to sink or swim, and I swam for dear life for a long time. It was very, very hard, but it gave me a ton of confidence in terms of figuring out what money was, and it was almost like a little laboratory. Like I would have these people come in, I would look at their credit. I learned how to read credit reports, what all of that meant. I was looking at tax returns. I had to learn how to read a tax return and what it all meant, looking at pay stubs and bank statements and kind of getting a picture of who this person was, and then explaining to them what the mortgage process was like and what this product was, which is really complicated. But it gave me a bunch of confidence, coming from a place of, being an artist and basically being told like, oh, you're just going to be broke your whole life. Like, you're not good at this, right? Like math isn't for you. That's cute. It really leveled me up. And so when Philip, made a switch, and he could talk about that, I really sort of tracked along with his learning, and we talked a lot about it. And then I knew that when we opened our own firm, that it was something that I wanted to be a part of.
So frustrating to me that as a society, we are still not past one, just telling females they're not good at math, so therefore they can't be financial advisors. Especially like, oh, you were a theater major, that's really cute. You can never do anything in your life other than theater. because none of us ever changed careers.
Well,
yeah. Come
Right.
on. And I don't know, have you found sort of your background and training in theater to be an asset
Oh my
in
gosh.
the work that you're doing?
100%. Because I mean, especially in the side that I tend to hang out with most, which is really coaching people, teaching them how to budget, teaching them how to communicate about money, being able to empathically pick up on what people are feeling and doing and just listening, because that's basically being an actor, is just being a really good listener. That's my job. It's invaluable, absolutely invaluable in learning how to communicate effectively with people. I use it every darn day and I wear it as a badge of honor. I'm glad.
Yeah, it is a question I get quite a bit. It's like, okay, I can't find anyone in CFP school, so where should I look? And theater, sort of the arts background, is definitely one of them. Communications, therapy, for someone who's like, I love therapy, but I don't want to be a therapist.
Right.
They would be a great fit in financial planning.
Absolutely.
So be willing to open it up and don't have preconceived notions about what a quote unquote failed actress, whenever you look at a resume, you're like, how did you end up here?
Right.
Because again, you never know what that superpower is going to bring to your firm. So Philip, sort of tell me your path.
Boy, there's always so many different, ways to frame the story. I think I'll frame it kind of in context of how pivotal XY was in all this. So similar to Julia, went to school for theater. I transitioned into teaching acting camps to kids for probably 3 years or so and really enjoyed teaching.
He was a really great teacher.
Empowering kids was not something I thought I would ever be spending my life at. And I spent a lot of time driving around to different camps and listened to a lot of talk radio and ended up hearing Dave Ramsey's show. I never had any interest in finance, any of that stuff at all. At the same time, I also got a book I didn't until later realize was just a pitch for whole life insurance called it's called Millionaire by 30.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
It was on the shelf of Julia's employer. I was like, that's a ridiculous title. I'll read that. And by the end of it, I was like, oh, I like it. Let's do it. Let's sign me up for this insurance. Anyway, so these kind of things were just hooks into this slippery slope of personal finance. And so when I got burnt out on teaching, I ended up getting picked up at a career fair by a investment advisory agency that was essentially owned by a life insurance company. I didn't know any better. I was totally wide-eyed babe in the woods when I entered in.
And I love how you framed that you got picked up by, they either courting you for dating or just literally picked you up and walked out, because that's sort of how it is.
Yeah, I was a number for sure. And when I got kind of plopped into the pool of other candidates to go through the Series 7 training and licensing at this company, I was one of 14. I looked around. I'm like, I do not belong here. I have a fine arts degree. All these people here have MBAs and have went to business school. And
guess how long they lasted.
And 1 year, I was the only one left.
Wow.
I think it was just my tenacity as an actor. I refused to give up, cold calling and pounding the pavement and going to networking meetings, all that kind of brutal stuff. So I paid my dues for sure. So that was about 7 years ago now. Yeah. And I barely passed the initial licensing exams, and I knew I was not smart enough to sit for the CFP and never thought I would attempt that. I failed the 66 twice. And so I was like, if that was so hard, CFP is not on my card. So I kind of settled into a groove and was working in the broker-dealer world for a while. And then I guess it was probably 3 years ago now, I was working, remodeling my bathroom, and I heard Sophia Berra interviewed on a podcast. I don't even know if it's around anymore, called The Wired Advisor. And she was talking about her model, which is essentially the XY model. And I was so skeptical. I was thinking there's no way you can make money doing planning for millennials. And this is some kind of bait and switch. And so I just out of, cynicism or curiosity or something, Googled her and was like, wow, her site's really nice. And she has all these kind of accreditations and so forth. I ended up reaching out to her and we connected because she has a theater background too. And so, I kind of learned her story. And I remember this was Thanksgiving 3 years ago. We sat
4 years ago, maybe. 4 years.
Think so. So I was still at broker dealer world and thought I would be there for forever. And I got on a call with her. I paid for her time. She was
Clarity FM.
Just Clarity FM. And it was some of the best money I ever spent. I spent an hour just kind of.
And I was on the call too.
Yeah. Julia was listening in and taking notes. And I asked her, how does this, probably why most people listen to XYPN radio, but how does this work? How do you do it? How do you make money? Who are your clients? How do you market? And by the end of the call, we probably talked for an hour. She said, Philip, I think you could have a really great fee-only RIA one day and also, have your CFP designation in probably the next year or two. And I hung up and Julia said, well, what do you think? And I said, no way is that ever going to happen. I'm not capable of passing the CFP. I just don't think I've got that in me. And second, my broker dealer's fine. And why would I leave? But that kind of seed of something better had been planted. And she was right. About 1 year later, I had 0 credits for the CFP. I had my letters behind me 1 year after that and launched shortly after passing the test.
About 6 months later.
So that was a brutal time it's basically a 3-month sprint to go from 0 to sitting for the exam. And those were dark days, but I made it. And so, we launched The Art of Finance a little over 2.5 years ago. And it's been a bumpy journey, but we're in I would say a very strong place now. So we did about $130K in revenue the first year, of which we had about $66,000 expenses. Largely that went to the IAR that I had working for me. And then last year we cleared 180. And this year we've done about 51,000 for the first quarter. So we're
3 months. 3 months. Oh yeah, quarter. My math skills coming to the surface.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know. I'm tired and I'm pregnant. I can use that.
That is the excuse. My wife, we're due in July, and so that is the thing now. It's like, I don't know, I'm pregnant.
I don't know, I'm pregnant.
I don't know if that counts, but okay, it does. It always counts. I've learned that. No, you make a couple awesome points in here. But one of the things I did not know until I met folks that grew up in theater, because I did not, and that is that. Especially if you're going to make this a career, theater, you get used to being told no, 99 out of 100 times.
Oh yeah. You get very thick skin.
Yeah. And I remember doesn't really matter, but my major professor's wife was had her PhD in ballet or something like that. And he said, and anytime anyone was ever being oh, you're being really mean to us, Dr. Nielsen, he's like, my wife got told she was fat every day of grad school, so just go away. They were just mean all the time. And I'm assuming there's a purpose behind all that. But, being told no all the time and getting used to it, again, it makes you resilient. And, for folks that are out there looking for talent, don't discount those types of life experiences that many of us don't have. If I knocked on 4 doors and people said, no, I'm going to go get a beer, I'm done. I don't have, that is not my personality.
Yeah, that happened to a lot of my peers. And I also kind of noticed that, I think having the expectation that we were going to be starving artists, forced us to be kind of scrappy and be okay with living lean. And so the fact that we didn't, especially my first 2 years as an IAR, and then my first year or so having launched the RIA, you're not drowning in money. Most of the money you make, you put back into the business, and you're just kind of used to living frugally, and having that expectation, I think, made it easier to last until things got stronger.
For sure.
Yeah. Talk to me about that. Cause we have long had the budget to show, okay, yeah, you can spend $10,000 or $20,000 in your first year in the business, but that's business expenses, not personal. And what we find is that ultimately personal expenses are what blow up the deal. So how have you been able to manage, those lean years as well as things are working? Y'all are making good money this first quarter. So how do you manage, I guess, that lifestyle creep?
Well, so we made a pretty big shift early on, when I think right about the time that we opened the firm. And this is something that, because we have a lot of small business owners as clients, and this is something that we coach them on, is starting to untrain yourself from thinking that the gross revenue of the business is your income. It
so
is
true.
not. And we set our income. We basically set a salary for Philip while he was really the only one working full time. And it was small, like measly. I think it was like $2,500 a month, something like that. So no matter how much the business would take in, that is what came to our household. And like I said, I was making about $50K in the mortgage industry, and I was working there. So that was kind of the tide over. And we also made sure that when we made this switch, we had no debt, and we had, other than our mortgage, and we had a, fully funded emergency fund. So we really tried to, walk the walk of what we teach our clients before we made that big decision of moving forward. So I think getting used to a small stipend for a while was absolutely key, and keeping our lifestyle where it was and not letting it, not letting it creep at all. I don't know how we would have done it without it.
You have a golden nugget in that, in terms of recommendation, that is set a salary for yourself. And that is what I have seen as well, is that as folks make more money, they spend more money, right? We know that from our clients, and yet we think that would never happen to me until we're making more money.
Right. Having
a salary for yourself, and y'all are in this perfect position where you can sit down and have an official board meeting and say, are we prepared to raise our salary? Am I earning my share? Because it does get you used to that number. It can be really hard when you're like, I don't know, I need some extra money. Let's take it out of the business. It's like, no, the business is not a savings account or a spending account. Like, it is the business. So cut yourself a salary. I think that's an awesome recommendation for folks in those first couple of years. Even if it's like $500 a month or $1,000 a month, just level it out. Don't just be robbing the bank, because you get used to doing that and it'll hurt you long term.
For sure. Yeah. So we're really careful about that. And it's not like you can never have any more money than that, but it gets paid to us in the form of a bonus when we do better. And I think we also decided not to pay ourselves a bonus until the business had earned its own emergency fund. So our business has a 3-month emergency fund as well. So we really focused on doing that. And then after that, we decided, okay, now that, we're consistently making more than what the business costs and what we're costing ourselves in salary, we can pay ourselves a bonus. And it's pretty great. And we do it pretty frequently now.
So, Philip, you mentioned that you ultimately did, after that call with Sophia, a year later, you're launching a business. Yeah, I'm assuming there was something in there that really pushed you this direction. I mean, what was it that pushed you over the edge and made you say, okay, I'm going to give up I'm going to get out of a warm bed and I'm going to go start a that is the best analogy I've got, is like, you got a job, you're in a warm bed, and basically you go run around outside naked in the cold, right? Because that is entrepreneurship. So like, what made you decide to do that?
Yeah. I don't think there's a way to do it without taking an income dip temporarily. And so having that expectation, I think, was good. I wasn't surprised. So I would say as a combo. So one was a high character ideal, and one was maybe not the most high character ideal. So the higher character ideal was, I was starting to realize more and more that when I would sit down with my clients as a commissioned advisor, even if I could put them into some sort of wrap arrangement, there were always other options on the table that my compensation would be different. And so I knew, they didn't know, but I knew that if they did path A, I might make $10,000 over a year. But if they did path B, I might make $20,000. And if they did path C, I might make $50,000. And regardless of how much you think you can remove yourself from that incentive, I don't think anyone can perfectly do it. And I realized I couldn't either. And it started to make me feel a little squirmy, even when they did the thing that I told myself was the best thing for them and also happened to be the thing that I made the most at. I started to feel just kind of grimy. So that really sort of planted a seed in me of conflict of interest. The second is, I saw how much of an override my company was taking. And I was like, man, I should be keeping that because most of my marketing expenses I'm paying myself. Yeah. And besides the office and the admin, that's a lot of money I'm paying them to essentially use their back office. And when I put all the costs together, I think we could probably do it for cheaper than that. So that planted the seed. And then I saw, okay, well, I don't have the first clue of how to launch an RIA, but if I join this group, they will help me, but I can't join the group officially unless I have my CFP. And so like all these things stacked back. And I essentially said, Julia, I've got to take a swing at this CFP and just, see if I can do it, because that all kind of makes the rest happen.
Yeah. And I think there was another thing at play, which was, we're creative people, and that industry, the financial industry as a whole has no room for that. They didn't know what to do with Philip, who was like, hey, I think, we could have this thing where we teach people, and like, I'm going after this niche of like these creative people. They're like, what? Like, why aren't you talking to old rich people? Like they could not understand that we're like, but no, there's a need here. Like people really need us. And this is where I want to be. And there was just a constant conflict, and we wanted to make our own videos, and we wanted to, he wanted to do things like that. It was just major handcuffs.
That's such a good point. I forgot to mention that. The desire we had from day one was let's make some actually interesting financial material out there to draw people to us, because it's so horrible. And as soon as we started to try, you instantly get crushed by the compliance department, and to the point that you just eventually think that's the way it has to be. And when you see these little independent RIAs that are much less fearful when it comes to putting creative content out there, that was very empowering to know, like, whoa, we could have like a Facebook page, we could have like an Instagram for our company. Like, that's insane and very exciting. And so that, we just jumped in with both feet as soon as we were free to do that.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to clarify one thing, because listeners will hang on to this point, and that is, I am glad you got your CFP. We do not require the CFP to join. So for anybody out there that's wondering, just to clarify that, but I am glad you got it, because we do see a lot of success by having it.
Well, I wanted the CFP as a well, let me say it this way. I wanted as much exposure as possible. And I knew that if I had the CFP, then, being able to be and have the exposure through NAPFA, through XY was greater. And that was really kind of, I thought, it's going to be a lot harder after I've launched my firm than before. So let's just get it over with now.
So one of the things that, if anyone has been following you, they know is that the two of you have a TV show. So on PBS. So talk to me about the origins of that and sort of what led to now having this show on PBS.
Yeah, well, comes back to the theater world again. So I guess about 7 years ago now, I was in a production of Hamlet. I was Ophelia, and I met this guy named Andrew, who was my director, and he was great. I really, really enjoyed working with him. He was a young guy. And so we became Facebook, just Facebook friends and acquaintances, and we would see each other every now and then. But when we launched our own firm, we knew that creating video content was something we really wanted to dig into, just because we really loved creating it, and it fit our skill set. So we started making these videos, and I would script them out, and we would try and address, kind of funny topics and make them engaging and try and make people laugh. And we would just post them on Facebook. That's literally all we did. I mean, we would upload them to YouTube and then post them on Facebook. And he saw them and reached out to us and said, hey, I'm currently working as an animator and an editor on this PBS digital show. So just to be clear, we're not actually on TV, but we are a show on PBS Digital, which is all their digital content. And so he was working on a show, a very popular show of theirs, but he and his wife, Katie, were first and foremost filmmakers. They became, over the last couple of years, kind of South by Southwest film festival darlings. Like, they've made some really amazing big budget films. And so when he reached out to us, he said, I know PBS is looking for more content. And he and his wife, Katie, were really interested in having a creative say in a new show, in some sort of new show. And him watching our videos, he thought, I think this would be a great fit for PBS, doing like a financial education show that's kind of like what you guys are already doing. What do you think? And we were like, oh my gosh, sign us up. Like, what do we need to do? This is a great idea. Because both of us actually are PBS kids, like, to our core. That's what we grew up with. So anyway, that was 2 years ago when they asked us this. And so we met, started coming up with a concept to pitch. We pitched. They said they're interested. We said, will you pay for a pilot? They said yes. Then we got caught in a legal limbo, and we ended up paying for the pilot ourselves. we just decided to do that because we really, really believed in the idea, and finally made the pilot, got it done, sent it to PBS. That's probably a year later. And then PBS says, we love it. We'll get back to you soon. And we wait and we wait and we wait. And it wasn't until last fall we finally got the green light. We got our contract. We got paid to make this show, and we started making it. And then it debuted in mid-January of this year. And so it's been live for, I guess, about 2.5 months now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's exploded. It's really taken off. So it's a whole nother wing. Like, to us, it's another kind of business, right? So it's another baby.
Sure.
It's on our OBA.
Yes.
So talk to me about the sort of that process. Did you hire lawyers, or did you done this enough times in terms of getting gigs that you feel confident?
Heck no.
No, this is way bigger fish than we've ever been involved in.
Way different.
And I think it's actually interesting that we both tried to make it as actors, but we didn't necessarily have, this is my opinion, but I didn't think we had anything very interesting to say.
Yeah.
And so then we kind of, explored a new land for us, which is finance as creatives and how to specifically navigate that as a creative. And now this opportunity comes back to us now that we have a message about how to handle and relate to personal finance. So this is an opportunity unlike anything we definitely had ever encountered before.
Yeah.
We did hire an entertainment lawyer who was wonderful and helped us through the process. We have a production team and a couple of co-collaborators who help us film, write, script, animate, sound, all the other stuff on it. And yeah, it's a new journey too.
Yeah, so this is not a low production, like recording on your webcam. I mean, this is a full production TV show, even if it's on the digital version. Like, this is a legit TV show. So, and do you feel like your background prepared you for the whole, everything that you're doing there? Or did it really prepare you for the acting, I don't know if that's the right word, but the acting side, and then the rest of it was stuff you had to learn?
Well, yeah. So I would say, as far as the presentation goes and how we communicate, how animated we are on camera, all of that comes from our training. But I think for me, the place that I've definitely been challenged and had to grow and learn and am learning is on the writing side and on the research side. Those are because, it's not like we can just get up there and just sort of spout our opinions necessarily. Yeah. We really need to figure out okay, where's the data to back all this up?
We quickly realized that most of the financial vlogging online, some of which we have contributed to, is not really backed up by much. It's just whatever you feel like saying, because who's going to fact check you, and really who's going to see it anyway. But when you're doing it with PBS, a highly respected brand in education, they want you to back it up with the data. So us just saying this is the best way to pay off debt, or this is how much a card appreciates. We had to have a lot of research, which we had never really done before, learning how to research a script. And then, coming up with the topics and presenting it in an interesting way was unusual. But the kind of the secret sauce of all of this is that we're kind of subject matter experts who can talk on camera. And I would say for people who are in finance but don't come from a traditional finance background, lean into whatever your superpower is that may not be specifically finance. And everybody has one, even if you have a more traditional path. We all have them, whether it's music or graphic design or who knows what. This is ours, and we've leaned into that, and it's happened.
Yeah, it's paid off for sure.
So I was thinking the show had actually gone live previously, just because I know y'all have been working on it. So I was assuming that has been a big driver of business into the firm. So one, has it been a driver this year? And then two, I'd like to hear about the ways, what has been a driver. So you said the show has exploded. So is that just in terms of viewers and notoriety and speaking gigs off of that? Or are you actually seeing clients off of it?
Yeah. So as far as clients, no, that has not been necessarily a driver. I do think it is nice to be able to put the PBS logo on our website and to use kind of that, halo effect to say like, hey, we're trusted, by these people. And that's a really big deal. But no, it has not been a huge driver.
The show's only 2 months old. So
yeah. I mean,
I think most marketing takes 6 to 18 months to see anything from anyway. So we don't even know if it will happen.
Yeah. I would back that up to say we didn't expect it to be, especially not at this point, so early in the game. As far as explosion goes, like what I mean by that is like, so we've only been, like I said, live for 2.5 months. We only live on Facebook. That's the only place.
It's not on YouTube.
Yeah, it's not on YouTube. And we have put out about 10 videos so far. And we just had a second video. 2 of those videos have hit 1 million views. And it's completely organic. Not a single cent put on boosts or anything like that. PBS has not done that so far with any of them. And then the other ones, some of them are in the 600,000 range, some are in like the 100,000 range. And so far we have subscribers, essentially subscribers of 45,000 people in 2.5 months.
So without going into too much political nonsense, I will say it is amazing how many people trust PBS because they make people fact check stuff before they say it.
Right?
And that's all I'm going to say about that. That is fantastic. So what was you said you had 1 million on 2 of them. What were the topics on those 2?
They were how cars can keep you poor and do I have to buy a house were the two that broke 1 million. And the second one's last week.
I love it. And like those are 2 like top of mind things for young people that most advisors couldn't actually answer that question. So that's awesome. I'm so proud of you too. Like I really am. And because what I recognize, and I'm assuming what drives you on this is, it's great to make money and it can be sort of that extra leg of the business, but like that's 1 million people that you've been able to impact.
It's been so cool. I mean, so amazing. And just the kinds of personal messages that we've gotten from people. I mean, we've gotten a lot of love from it, and we're excited to see, what sort of impact it has, because even though, we love Art of Finance and that we're able to literally hold the hand and look in people's eyes and, affect people there very directly, this is incredible to know that we have the potential to grow this to really change a lot of lives.
Now, before we hit the big time with this show, we were making our own little YouTube videos from our kitchen and from our living room that we put out every week or 2. Mm-hmm. And that may have been possibly what you've heard or has kind of passed through the grapevine is we have had clients come to us through those.
Yes, that is true.
They were much, much, much more basic, non-fancy. We found in the video world, there's just so incredibly little content of any kind that even having really basic stuff and being somewhat approachable can make you stand out. Yeah. And so we were doing that before this happened.
And for these viewers, who are watching us on Facebook, to know that we have a business doing that is actually we have specifically made it kind of hard for them to find that, because we don't want it to be like, we just have this show just to build our business. Like that is really, truly not what it's for. It's its own thing. And, PBS can't advertise us or things like that. So we really try and keep it separate. But what we really hope that it does end up in is what you mentioned, like speaking, because we love to speak and we love to teach in that way. And so that's what we're hoping to utilize that sort of exposure for is really for that. That's our hope in the next couple of years, but it's going to take us a while to get there and just let the show mature and keep growing. And so that's what we hope.
So are you on did you say a contract for 10 episodes? Is that right for total? Or I guess what is the current contract? And then what is your goal for the next, do you hope it renews and continue doing this, or that it evolves into something else?
Yeah, so we just renewed actually. And so
congratulations.
The original contract that we signed was for about 10 episodes plus it was 11 episodes plus a trailer. And then our next one is for 23 episodes. So we have a lot more work ahead of us.
Wow.
And we are trying to shoot 15 of those before our baby comes.
In May.
Literally in May.
So you have a month for 15 episodes. That seems totally doable.
We're shooting 3 this Saturday.
Yes, this Saturday we have another shoot date. So
Did you have all of the topics lined up before you got the contract, or at this point are they like, sure, show them up? All right.
Not at all.
When I think probably episode 5 or 6 aired, they said, hey, this is doing great. Let's commit to basically finish out the season. And we're like, okay, awesome. What are we going to talk about?
Yeah,
for 23 more episodes.
The beauty of content is once you're in that mode, though, like you could come up with 1,000 episodes. Right?
We've also had a lot of people message us, private message us, Twitter, Facebook, with great topic ideas.
Yes, we are not shy about asking.
So we have a big, long list of, I mean, we could do another 100 episodes of that list alone. So our dream, our hope long term is that the art of finance continues to grow and become more and more autonomous. It's become way more of a non-Philip show in the last year, which I love. It's becoming its own beast in a good way. And we'd love 2 cents to go on for years. I mean, that's our dream really, but who knows? I mean, there's so many factors out of our control there.
So again, like I expected you to tell me the videos and the PBS show are what has driven your growth. So you were able to bring over a pretty decent sized, number of clients whenever you were first getting launched. So what has driven the rest of the client flow? I mean, because I don't know if you recognize just how much more that is than most firms experience, like exponential growth. So like, where are they coming from?
Yeah, I'll say we actually had that realization, or at least I did, when we came to XY and Dallas, and we started talking to other folks, and we were just sharing, we really didn't know that was out of the ordinary. We didn't know. And so we were like,
how would you, if you're not talking to other advisors, like it's just,
how would you know? We've kind of really been in our own little world doing our thing. And so, kind of head down. Yeah. So we didn't recognize that. And I would say, and we've also never, ever made a cold call. So since Art of Finance, you did.
Philip has made lots of cold calls.
That is true.
I paid my dues. So at the beginning, it was me and Julia really doing a ton of in-person networking. So I founded a chapter of BNI, and I was the chapter president for 2 years, and I hustled my butt off with that thing and every network and chamber thing possible, because that's all I knew was really in-person marketing. And then as time went by and I realized the compliance shackles weren't on me as hard when it came to online marketing, that's where the traffic started to grow from. So we started to put out more content on YouTube and on Facebook. We got a Yelp page up. We got a Google for Business page up. And then our clients that were happy ended up reviewing us. And then over time, especially our Google for Business and Yelp pages just took
exploded.
Over. And then that became the primary source, because when someone would Google financial advisor in the city of Austin, Texas, our Yelp page was like the number one hit on Google.
Yeah, because Google we're number one on Yelp. Like there's no one even close.
We're the top financial advisor on Yelp. And so that drew tons of traffic to us. And we were told that, you're not supposed to ask for reviews, but if you have them there, it's not breaking any compliance. And I just survived my first audit, and that is not something I got reprimanded for. So I think we're in the green on that. And Julia talks to most of our leads. You can speak to it.
Yeah. And they're coming to us a lot from Yelp
and Google.
And and Google.
We have a nice website.
And our website is really pretty good. I will say that we really try to invest a lot of our time and effort into making that a very clear picture of our brand. And we really kind of lean into who we are. We are not suit wearers. I don't wear high heels. Like, this is who we are. And if you don't like it, that's totally fine. But the people who do like it are very attached. And so I have a very long list of, people who are waiting to talk to me, essentially, for initial consultations and all that stuff. But it's taken a while to get there. But we're here now.
Yeah, I pulled up your website earlier, and I think you're booked through like the end of April. So
I am.
Good problem to have. May need a second salesperson on the team one of these days, but then you'll need 3 more planners.
I know. Yeah,
it can only help.
Exactly. Yeah.
It really wasn't too long ago that, there was actually a day, I'll give him rib for it, just because it was something like 15 years ago. Bob Veras said that, financial advisors didn't need a website because no one was going to go on the internet to find a financial advisor. Even now, we think like, okay, well, I'm going to get we think of all the ways we're going to get clients, whether it's client referrals, which are great, or we're out networking, but most clients are going onto the internet asking Google questions, right? They're looking for answers because they don't know that they need an advisor. They just know they need an answer to a question or to solve a problem that they're having.
I would say at this point it's almost non-optional because even if you have a business where you're mostly referrals, and I hear that from a lot of advisors I talk to.
And we do have a pretty good referral stream, I would say. I'd say about 30% of our business is referrals.
At this point, but that took many years to build. It's very, very slow. Those folks are still validating you online.
Absolutely.
They're looking like, how skeezy do these people look? And what are their reviews say they actually do for their clients? Okay, they have 5 stars, but like, what are they talking about? And I think it's a big credibility builder. It also helps screen out the wrong types of folks.
Yes.
Like we spend a ton of time talking about budgets with our clients. And if that's a word you don't want to talk about, well, you probably shouldn't come to us. I remember all the episodes of your podcast I listened to before we launched and just how heavy
niche.
The niche was and is it.
We are living proof.
We're doing it. We're doing the niche. And
that's my next question.
Yeah, well, maybe you should ask your question because I think Julia will.
We'll let you tee it up.
Well, it's interesting. So sometimes with niche markets, if you don't know the world, you wonder like, what do you know that I don't know? Like, why can I just go out and work with creatives? If I say I work with creatives, so therefore I'm an expert, like what makes you different and sort of what's that area of expertise that you're bringing to the table that your market sees and says like, okay, yeah, these are my people.
So I'll answer that in 2 ways. So the first one is I think it's a maybe 10, maybe 15% specialty knowledge, and the rest is all just credibility. So I think if that's true when people go to work who are veterans, who go to work with a veteran specialist, or it doesn't matter, like there's a little bit of specialty knowledge we have when it comes to maybe how to budget on a variable income, because a lot of them have variable incomes. But
we are good with that.
Most of it, as you probably know, is unanimous. Good financial planning is generally the same for everybody, depending on the stage of life. But it's very, very largely credibility that they're empathic, we're empathic. They love the arts, we love the arts, and they know that we're not faking it. Like that I think is part of it. The second is that being exclusive in some way makes you more desirable. And that's so worked for us. I remember Julia's mentioned the number of times that people will get on the phone with her and say, look, I know you guys work with creatives and artists, and I'm not a creative or an artist, but I played like the trumpet in high school. Can I work with you? It's like, if you put up a barrier, people really want to get into it.
People really want to get over that barrier. Yeah. And I'll say that, this is how we market ourselves and we have niched ourselves, but we work with definitely with people who aren't in necessarily a creative industry, but just really resonate with our brand and our approach, or like that, it's not just, again, a man at the helm. Like we have a very strong female led, if it's a couple or single, single women as clients. And I think it makes all the difference having both genders represented.
Yeah, for sure. And I would actually say that, again, like from the outside looking in and talking to so many firm owners, the fact that y'all know how to deal with variable cash flow is actually a major selling point. I would argue most advisors don't know how to budget. Yeah. Just in general, across the board.
That is very true. Yeah.
When you work with clients that are already rich, you don't care about their budget. Like that overspending is not their problem. So budgeting in general is one thing. Being able to do a budget with variable comp, whole other ballgame. And so those are the types of areas that differentiate you, whether it's like, literally we do this and no one else knows how. Right. But when a creative comes to your website and says like, yeah, I'm dealing with this and it's a struggle that I keep like getting buckets of money for 2 months and I don't have work for 2 more years. Like, and how do I manage that? And the fact that y'all came from that world is icing on the cake, obviously, that you speak the language and just understand. They're not going to discourage someone from chasing their artistic dream just because it may not be the best financial decision.
Yeah, for sure. We really, we opened it up because we just see that finances in general are a huge barrier for people to make the art that they want to make, to give the amount that they want to give, and like just to have the impact on the world they're called to make. So many people think that finances is a barrier, and it doesn't have to be. And the trick doesn't lie in exploding your income necessarily. It's just doing better with what you have, with what you have been given. And that's a skill that can be taught. And that's what we try to do.
Because so many of our clients do have variable income, either they're self-employed or they have a side job. That's one of the several factors that I would say forced our firm to become so budgeting focused.
Yes.
Is because if you can't get that figured out when you only get 2 big paydays a year, I mean, you really can't do anything else.
No, the best financial plan is useless pile of paper. Who cares?
So we lean in really, really hard. We buy probably $400 worth of YNAB licenses per month for our clients. I mean, it's a big part of our pie because we think it's just so essential, and it's just become part of our brand.
Yeah. And we teach them how to do it.
Yeah.
So talk to me about working with your spouse, because we've had some folks on that do work with their significant other. I obviously work with my wife now over at AdvicePay. But it comes with its own unique challenges. So I guess what told you that you were going to be able to do this successfully together instead of needing to draw maybe a line in the sand between business and personal?
Well, we had a couple false starts when Philip was still kind of in the brokerage world. I took a swing at being his assistant. That did not go very well.
We're both a little too type A.
Yeah, we are both eldest children.
Drive.
We are driver personalities. We have very strong opinions and do not like to be bossed. So yeah, but I think really what made us keep trying is knowing that we ultimately, there's nothing like doing business with somebody that you trust 100%. I do business with him because of the same reasons that I'm married to him. He is the most high integrity person I have ever met in my life. And he is incredibly smart and wise and kind and really cares about the product and serving people. And that's who I want to work with. And then also seeing that we have actually very complementary skill sets. I really love hanging out, kind of in the budgeting world. And he's really good at sort of the more high level, long-term stuff. So we knew like there was something there that isn't there when we're apart from each other. We could be fine if we each had our own business, and we did that for a while. And I was actually considering, opening like a budgeting coaching business apart from Art of Finance. And then we were like, wait, no, that doesn't make sense, because why don't we just make this a part of Art of Finance, and that'll, be the piece of the pie that I get. So I think the couple of things that have contributed to us making it this far and not killing each other and not getting divorced is, one, finding where we fit in the business and not overlapping too much. We each
have our own domain of ownership.
Yes. We have our own domain of ownership, and paying for counseling. Lots of counseling. We've been to a counselor for 8 years, and we've been married for 11 years now almost. So we are very, very intentional about getting third-party wisdom, consistently upping our communication skills with each other, and just not taking it for granted.
I think it's so huge to recognize. We go to therapy because we are broken.
Right.
That therapy is for broken people, and especially for couples. Yeah, like we're fighting, we're not communicating. Like basically, we're on the edge of divorce. So let's go. Try this last thing. And it's like
late.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Is like therapy is for healthy people to stay healthy. Yes. We just only go when we're broken. So therefore,
preventative maintenance.
Yeah. And so, has that sort of been your experience with it, of just like getting in a routine of going, whether it be monthly or quarterly, whatever the schedule is, but just like it just keeps you healthy and lets you sort of make minor adjustments instead of trying to like overhaul?
Oh, yeah, for sure. We went to therapy at first, I think why everybody does, which is like we were in trouble. Like things were pretty bad when we first started going. And then it was such a positive experience. We're like, oh, well, let's go to work out this other thing too. And then we're just like, let's just go every 2 weeks. And so, our counselor is pretty much like part of our advisory board on our business, more or less. As is,
awesome.
We have a business consultant / business coach who we see twice a month as well. And oh man, those are some of the best dollars ever spent because they help us figure out when we're talking past each other, when we're not correctly utilizing each other's strengths. I think something that Julia said I want to kind of echo, which is we have pretty different personalities. I mean, I'm quite introverted. She's quite extroverted. She's very much a kind of make a big, beautiful, creative mess. And I'm a very kind of orderly, keep things in a straight line type person. And like the fact that we have such a totally different aptitude and ability, is very, very powerful when trying to grow a brand, but at the same time can constantly keep you talking past each other. And so we just have like a couple really, really, really precious referees in our life that they can never leave us. They can never die. And they can never move.
I know. I tell our counselor is this precious, man in his probably early 60s. And I'm like, you understand you can never retire, right? Like ever. I will hunt you. I will show up at your retirement home. I will never.
And we will sit down with you and talk.
Yes, it's preventative. And I think it should be enjoyable. Like it's kind of like staying healthy is a thing you do regularly. And I think we have a healthy, wonderful relationship, but it's work. I mean, I know you're a CrossFit guy. Like CrossFit is work, but it's healthy and has wonderful results and prevents stuff and maybe causes some stuff, but prevents stuff
every now and then.
And that's kind of how we think about it. If you're going to work with your spouse, I mean, it's an amazing asset.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and listeners have probably heard me say this, but like, I'm so tired of if you're going to start a business, be prepared to work 90 hours a week, 70 hours is part-time. And I'm like, shut up. No, that is not the way it's supposed to work. And you also don't need to choose between your business and your family.
No.
And that is another sort of mantra that people put out there. Like, I'm so hardcore that I gave up my family for my business. And like, no, that was dumb.
Like, what?
Yeah, like,
what are you doing?
It's not worth that. And you can have both.
It's kind of become the badge of honor of our time that I work 100 hours and I'm like, no, you probably don't. But B, like, why is that good? Like, that's not something to brag about. You have some issues that you have to work on. You're very inefficient.
Yeah. Congrats on your illness. Yeah. Work on that.
I've scaled down. I mean, I was definitely pushing 50 to 60 at the beginning because like you're everything at the start.
Yeah. But even then,
the goal was to scale that down as fast as possible. And I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but I probably work less than 40 hours a week now. I mean, we've gotten efficient and delegated, and that's the goal, is not to just become the horse forever, but to get the thing somewhat automated.
I can't conceptualize how you're working 40 hours a week or less, given the growth of the business, plus the show. Like it just seems like so much. I guess I would have to just come hang out for a few days to see how you're doing planning.
Yeah.
So Julia probably works
more than you at this point.
But she's about to take quite a bit of time off. So she's getting...
Yeah, I was going to ask that question. Sort of what's the plan with a baby? How do you feel like that will change, if anything, like how y'all are going to approach the business? Get a full-time nanny.
Yeah. So I hear it's basically just like a blip on the radar, right? Like super easy.
Right. You'll sleep great. Like maybe you'll sleep great.
Right. Like it just, maybe a little hard at the beginning, but then they're house trained and then you're good. No. So our current plan is that we are going to go on pretty much full blackout mode for all of June, and when baby shows up. So I'm due near the end of May-ish. And so we're assuming that June is just going to be blackout. And then in July, Philip will start to kind of fold back in, take some meetings. I still plan on being on total blackout mode, maybe checking some emails here and there, but pretty much not. And then our hope is that by August, I can come back half-time and Philip will be back, full-time by then. And we're going to hire a part-time nanny so we can kind of, juggle and sort of redo how we schedule meetings and things like that in order to handle it. I mean, that's as best as we can come up with now. But the great thing is, like, I feel like we have an amazing, very loyal and dedicated group of clients that truly feel kind of like a family. Like they're super invested in us personally. They're all super excited about this baby. And we're doing our best to communicate with them what to expect from us during this time. And they've all been super supportive. And for our foundations clients, the clients that are in coaching, because we have a set schedule with them where we at least meet every month, Chloe, who is our trainee, will be there on call for them and doing check-ins and making sure that, things don't get off the rails, even if we're not really progressing in terms of like strategy and things like that. Just kind of keeping the wheels greased so that when we are ready to come back, everybody's waiting for us.
That's one of the great beauties of having this business is that taking time off, A, you don't have to ask for it. B, we don't necessarily take a pay hit. Most of our income is recurring, almost all of it really. And so if we don't meet a client for a whole month, our pay actually doesn't change, which is kind of weird. If we didn't meet a client for 6 months, we start losing clients. But, it's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, the majority of our clients you meet quarterly and anyway. And then, like I said, for the foundations clients, we've got a plan for them to make sure that they're well taken care of.
Well, and having the flexibility to adjust because you just never know. The baby sleeps great. Everything's happy. Yeah. You may say like, oh yeah, maybe a little earlier. Things are a little rougher. Take an extra couple weeks and until mama gets some sleep, then that's just a reality of it.
What's your plan?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is such a good question. Our challenge, honestly, is that XY Planning Network can run without me being here. I have no qualms. I can step out for 12 weeks because we have 12 weeks parental leave for our team. And so I can step out for 12 weeks. I should step out for 12 weeks because I would like for our team to know they can.
Yeah, I know.
And that's serious. So there, I'm not worried about advice pay because there's only five of us there and 3 are having babies in a month from each other. So we are still working on that plan. But Mary's, so as product owner, she can get her work sort of prepped out because she does a lot of the designs and user stories and that sort of thing. So she can work ahead. But I may work more hours than I wanted just to backfill some of the sales because our sales associate is one that will be having a baby. So we'll figure it out. And the cool thing, like I said, about it is it's not an on-off. It's not like I'm working 40 hours a week or I'm not working. Like you can work 10 hours a week and then 20 hours a week. And you can take a day off and stay at home with a kid. Like if you don't sleep, you can rearrange meetings. All that's okay. And so I think just embracing that. I think it's really hard for entrepreneurs to embrace that, but just like embrace that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, this has been so much fun. So as we're coming here towards the end, I'll ask you the final question and you can decide who wants to go first. But, if there's one thing that you have learned over the time of owning this business, that one thing you wish you could go back and tell yourself, what do you think that one piece of advice would be?
Oh, goodness. I have to think about this.
And I know you laugh because you thought you were going to prepare for it and then you didn't because no one does. So.
Totally didn't.
Oh man, only one.
Here's what I would say. I'm sure I'm going to think about, a million other things that I would have rather said when I'm about to fall asleep tonight. But I think it's really, as corny as this sounds, embrace who you are. Your brand is you, when you're in this kind of place. And so just like find those sort of weird things about yourself and like amplify them. And those people will come to you because I guarantee those weird people who you think don't really exist out there, they do exist. And they also need financial planning help. So they will find you above everybody else. That's what I would say.
I love it. Philip?
That was good.
Oh,
you sold yourself short. I thought that was pretty good.
Oh, I did pretty good.
Oh, geez, only one. I guess I'll have to go a little higher level and say that everything is way slower than you think it will be. Everything takes twice as long.
Everything takes twice as long and costs twice as much.
That really is true. And when you think you're the exception, you're falling exactly into the entire cliche.
Yep.
I was like, no, but not for me. And then yes, for me. So. It's slow. It's good.
I think that's great advice because as entrepreneurs, we want to see a quick results. Like you put $1 in, we get $2 back. Like we want to see it move quickly, and it does. It just takes time.
It's like it's a baby. Like what do you expect of a baby. Like, it needs you that entire like first year, like you're feeding it. You can't expect it to act like a mature thing. It's small and it requires,
it just takes time.
Yeah. And it is ravenous for your time and attention and your money. So you need to come prepared. Like,
are you talking about a baby or business at this point?
Yeah. I was saying, you sound well prepared for a baby. So awesome. Well, thank you both so much for coming on the show and sharing your paths. It sounds like it has been an epic run that is about to get even more fun when you get a little one into the mix and get to what we do. So thank you again and best of luck with everything.
Thank you, Alan. This was really fun. I have to personally thank you for making part of this possible.
Yeah, for sure.
If it wasn't for XY,
we wouldn't even know we could do this.
That's right. So,
well, thank you for that. What highly repetitive tasks are you doing that take up your time and keep you from seeing more clients? Tasks like data input, building financial plans, document organization, and more? What if all of these tasks were done by a trained professional who could complete them with quality, accuracy, and efficiency? Valenta BPO provides virtual assistant and paraplanner outsourcing solutions specifically for financial advisors and the financial planning industry. Check them out at valentabpo.com to see how they can help you do more of what only you can do. Be sure to join our VIP community at xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP to hang out with other XYPN radio listeners, ask questions for future mailbag episodes with myself and Kitsis, and to finally find a community of like-minded financial advisors. Thanks so much for joining me today. We'll see you next time.
You're not alone, and you're not crazy. It's scary starting, building, and growing your own financial planning firm. And that's why we put together a free private community just for you, the Cutting Edge Financial Planner. Go to xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP or text XYPN Radio to 33344 and join a network of thousands ready to change the lives of Gen X and Gen Y clients.